Hi, we're going to continue on with part 3 of chapter 13. Now we're going to talk about parenthetical clauses. In the last session we talked about parenthetical adverbs. Well, these are going to be parenthetical clauses we're going to discuss. Kind of on the same idea though. Within sentences, dependent parenthetical clauses that interrupt the flow and are unnecessary for the grammatical completeness of the sentence are set off by commas. For instance, the manager's directive, unless we hear differently, must be implemented immediately. Now this interrupts the flow of the sentence because if we ignored this, we could say the manager's directive must be implemented immediately. Do we need to know this unless we hear differently? No. We could totally ignore that and have a sentence. So we're going to set this off with commas. Okay, let's try this, putting commas in where needed. When they make calls, cell phone users should move into private locations. When they make calls, okay, do we need comma there? When they make calls, so this is a dependent clause when they make calls. Cell phone users should move to private locations. That's an independent clause. So do we put a comma to separate an independent and a dependent clause? Yes, we do. Cell phone users should move to private areas when they make calls. So we have cell phone users should move to private areas when they make calls. Do we need a comma anywhere in there? That looks like one independent clause to me. So, whoops, let's go back. So we don't need any commas in this one. Okay. All future email will be monitored, although this has never been done in the past. Okay, so we have all future email will be monitored. That's one independent clause. We could put a period here. Although this has never been done in the past. This looks like it might be a dependent clause. So what are we going to do here? We're going to put a comma to separate them. The hands-free cell phone bill, unless the governor fails to sign it, will go into effect October 1st. Okay? The hands-free cell phone bill, that's not a full sentence. How about if we ignored this part here? Will go into effect October 1st. Okay, so this is one independent clause with an interrupter here. So we're going to put a comma to separate this clause here, unless the governor fails to sign it, because we don't need to know that information particularly. If you have any questions, please call me at extension 306. Do we need any commas here? Okay, so if you have any questions is an independent or a dependent clause, please call me at extension 306, which is an independent clause. So I'm going to separate them with a comma. Please call me at extension 306 if you have any questions. Do I need a comma here? This is just one independent clause here. You please call me. The implied you is the subject. Call me at extension 306 if you have any questions. It's just one complete thought. If possible, you should send your email message again. Do I need anything here? If possible, you should send your email message again. Do I need a comma there? Yes, because I have an introductory Forgot the term already. And then introductory dependent clause. You should send your email message again is an independent clause. So I need my comma. Because we value your business, we will offer you free shipping on your next order. Because we value your business, that looks like a dependent clause, and then we will offer you free shipping on your next order. Looks like an independent clause. So we do need a comma to separate them. Okay, let's move on to relative clauses. And these are words like who, whom, whose, which, and that. They function as conjunctions when they introduce dependent clauses. They're actually classified as relative pronouns. We learned that in the pronoun chapter. But when they function as conjunctions, they do so when they introduce dependent clauses. Okay? Who, whom, and whose. Who is used to refer to persons, and they're used to introduce essential or non-essential clauses. Which is used to refer to animals or things. So we use who, whom, and whose for people, which for animals, and it should be used to introduce non-essential clauses. And then the word that, it's used to refer to animals or things, should be used to introduce the essential clauses. Okay, so remember our non-essential clauses are separated with commas, and our essential clauses are not. So remember which uses the commas and that doesn't. Okay, every customer, so we're talking about people, who visits our website leaves valuable data. It's an essential, so we do not need any comma here. So we need this here. Okay, Ellen Patrick, whom we hired last year, is an excellent webmaster. Do we need to know that she was hired last year? No, so that's a non-essential clause. Our website, which was originally intended for marketing, okay, our website's not a person, it's a thing, so we use which, but notice we use a comma before the word which was originally intended for marketing. Now, we don't really need to know this, so we could temporarily ignore it. So we could say our website is becoming invaluable for customer service. So this is a non-essential clause, so we need the commas to separate it. Any website that attracts visitors is successful. Okay, we're talking about a thing, so we use that. But we need to know that that attracts visitors to be successful. So this is an essential clause, and we don't need commas with that. All right, let's try this. We're going to choose the correct word to complete these sentences. A cell phone that or which rang during the meeting was annoying. Do we need to know that it rang during the meeting? Yes, we do. So we're going to use that here. My new BlackBerry smartphone, that or which has good voice quality, cost less than I expected. Do I need to know that it has good voice quality? No. So what am I going to use? Which, I guess I covered up my little shading there. And here I have my comma. Okay, a truck that or which was without proper tags was ticketed. Okay, do I need to know that it was without proper tags? Probably. So I'm going to use that because I'm talking about a thing and I don't need a comma. That Rent-A-Wreck truck that or which was without proper tags was ticketed. Do I need to know that that Rent-A-Truck was without proper tags? Probably not. It was ticketed. So I'm going to use which, and this comma is kind of a giveaway. So I use a comma before which, and when it's essential knowledge, I use that. When it's not essential knowledge, I use which. Okay, we're going to try to put some commas in here. We hired Shauna Jones, who came highly recommended for the position of Junior Product Manager. Okay, we hired Shauna Jones for the position of Junior Product Manager. We have this extra part here, who came highly recommended. Do I need to know that? I do not. So I put my commas in here to separate it because it's interrupting. And remember, I can read this as we hired Shauna Jones for the position of Junior Product Manager. I don't really need that for information. The IRS, which audits only 2% of all tax returns, is choked with paperwork. Okay, the IRS is choked with paperwork. Do I need to know this, which only audits 2% of all tax returns? Probably not. So I'm going to separate that out with commas. Even our computers that have updated virus software are sometimes infected with malicious viruses. Do we have anything interrupting? Well, even our computers that have updated virus, well, we have that word that there. And we're talking about computers. So we use that. Remember, that is essential information when it starts with that, so we don't need a comma. Okay, this is a quick punctuation review. This is going to help you with using commas and semicolons. A compound sentence, comma. You use a comma when a coordinating conjunction joins independent clauses. Independent clause, here's two of them, here's our comma that joins them. And here's some of our independent clauses, our coordinating conjunctions. Remember, there's more of them, and if you think of fanboys, it'll help you remember all of them. Okay. A compound sentence, when you use a semicolon on it, if there's a conjunctive adverb joining the independent clauses. So remember, we had the coordinating conjunctions joining two independent clauses, you use a comma. But when you're having a conjunctive adverb joining them, you use a semicolon. Okay, here's an independent clause and here's an independent clause. And if we use any of these conjunctive adverbs, we use the comma, or semicolon, I'm sorry. And then remember, if there are more than two syllables, you put a comma after them. If they're not, you don't, like the word then. Complex sentence. A complex sentence has a dependent clause and an independent clause, and we use a comma after the dependent clause introduced by a subordinate conjunction. Okay, so here's a subordinate conjunction: since, if, as, when, and then it's introducing this dependent clause. So it's before it, introducing it, and then we have our independent clause, then we use a comma to separate them. Okay, now we're going to talk about this in our next video. So I'm going to sign out on this one, part 3, and we'll get ready to do part 4.